In this video, we're looking at making a fixture to engrave something like metal tags or some object that we're purchasing that we want to engrave, rather than engraving a big piece of plastic and then just doing a cutout. We need to actually make a fixture to hold these parts that we're purchasing and doing. So in this example, I've got a 4" by 2.5" trophy plate. And the idea is that, let's say we're buying metal blanks and we need to engrave them with the laser. I need to make a fixture to hold as many as I can on my table so that I'm not having to just sit there and do one at a time. So we have our one template that we created. We have 4 lines of text. So we got all of our text in, got the right font, sized everything the way we want, spaced it. We even added a box around the outside edges of our plate. And this is where you want to do some practice before you start to make a whole fixture. Is you want to make sure, get some scrap material and cut out the size to make sure that all your plates fit, because depending on what you're working with, it may be that they're not all cut perfectly the same size, and you want to make sure that your fixture can hold the largest of the objects so that you're not sitting there with 10% of them don't fit in your fixture. And you're sitting there wondering what to do with those. So always check before you make a fixture. A lot of them. I've recently tested. I did a sample test with a bunch of name tags that I had purchased, and I tested maybe 20% of them, and thought, okay, yeah, I've seen some bigger ones. I've got my size right, and then sure enough, I still out of 100 had maybe 5 or 6 that wouldn't fit. So always double check before you engrave a fixture. That being said, here is our single plate. And how do we turn this into a fixture? In Carpathia, it's very easy. We go up here to Master, and we turn on multi-plate mode. Right now it's turned off. We turn this on, and it can be rows or columns. I'll show you what that does later, but rows. And our material right now is our plate size. So we're going to say that we're going to take a piece of acrylic to make our fixture that's 24 inches wide, 12 inches tall. And I'll come back to intermaterial offset because I want you to see what that does. Grid style, there's no grid turned on. If we were taking a just sheet of, say, engraving plastic like Flexibrass, and we wanted to make a bunch of these plates and then cut them out with the laser, we would use grid cutout because it's a fast way to do it. It does a sweeping grid, so you're not doubling cuts or anything like that. But we're not doing that here. So what we're going to do is we need a gutter size, which means what's the spacing between our plates? How much acrylic do we want to leave in between each metal plate? So I'm doing 1/4 inch. So let's do that real quick. So right now what we see is a 12 by 24 sheet of material, and we have this 1/4 inch space from the top and the left. Now if I go into the plate, take all of our text, I go to get my data, and in this case we have it in the right order for all 3 lines, so I can do it all at once. Copy. And I have 3 lines selected. This last line, the Houston City Championship, is static. It's not variable. Every plate's going to have that on it. These 3 lines are the ones that change depending on who swam, what place they got, what event. So we'll take this text merge. It's okay. So here are all of our plates, and they all are 1/4 inch apart. And we have 24 plates, and we have 2 masters. So if we go to our second master, we see that only 20 fit on the first page, and we had to create a new page with more. And we'll show what that does in a minute too. So we'll go back up here. Now, just looking at this, I see that I've got a big space of material left over down here and a big space over on the right. And just so that the fixture is a little stronger, what I like to do is, we talked about earlier, that intermaterial offset. So what I'm going to do is on the left, I'm going to add another 1/4 inch. And at the top, I'm going to add another 1/4 inch. So that now we have a 1/2 inch space from the top down and a 1/2 inch from the left and a 1/4 inch in between each one. And we could we could sit here and do all kind of things to, you know, try to center things up. It really doesn't matter. This to me is easier when you grab this fixture later. When you see the big space over on the right, you know that's the right-hand side. But I would still either engrave on this top section up here after we cut this out, or mark it with a Sharpie or something to show the upper left corner so that you don't get it flipped upside down or backwards or something like that. Anyway, so we've created all these, and so you see what this looks like. I'm going to go to File Print, which is Control P is the hotkey for that. We'll go to an epilogue engraver because their dashboard shows what we've printed. And here we have the job with its first page and its second page. And if we look at it, we see what's going to vector is what we would do first. We would send over just the vector portion, and we would cut this out of a sheet. We wouldn't run this page because we don't need to do that. We would just make one fixture. We would cut this out. Then what we would do is we would turn back on the engraving without the vectoring, and we would fill all the holes up with the metal plates and engrave these, and then take those out and put 4 more in and engrave the last 4. Okay, so that's how that would work coming over there. Now I'm going to undo back to here. I'm going to go back, since I undid, I'm going to go back and add in that inner material offset. Okay, now the reason I backed up is that if I don't want to have to turn off the vector every time, I can select the vector box, which I have selected right now that's around the outside edge, and I can go into my object properties and I can set it to do not print. And I say, okay. Now I do my text merge. It creates all my plates, and when I print this, you can already see there are no boxes there. I print this. It comes into epilogue, and if I look at what's going to vector, nothing's there because we turned off those boxes. Only the engraving is there. So we would just put our plates in, engrave that, and whatever our settings are over here, which is for metal engraving, that's what they would be. So this is an easy way to set up a fixture. And then especially once it's created, just keep populating these, because what you would do next time you open this job is you have all these, you could save it like this in case you want to save it. Then you open it next time and you go to job and you say delete plates. And you want to make sure you're on your first plate, because it can delete everything after the plate you're on. And you can put in a big number like 200. And it will delete every plate after the one you're on, but it will always leave one plate. So if I had selected, let's back this up just to showcase this. If I had selected this plate and I went into job and delete plate, and I said, let's delete 200, it's going to delete all, including the one I was on. If I go to the third plate, go back to the view, see that, and I say job delete plates, and I say 200, it's just going to leave the last 2. It's going to delete the one you're on and all the ones after it. It will always leave one though, no matter what. It'll never just delete all the plates. But anyway, so you would get back to where you have one plate, and then you would just go back in and start doing your text merge again and be able to populate all your new plates. So that shows how Carpathia handles creating fixtures and then engraving to a fixture. Thanks for watching.